333 BC, in the Battle of Issus, after the suffering, half of the Iranian Empire had slipped away. Present-day Turkey, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine, and Egypt came under the control of Alexander the Greek. But from Iraq to Balochistan, still the Iranian Achaemenid Empire remained established. Its emperor Darius sat in Babylon, preparing to fight Alexander hand-to-hand. He had summoned soldiers from every corner of the empire. From India and Afghanistan, also elephants and cavalry troops had arrived. The emperor many times sent offers of reconciliation to Alexander the Greek, even sent envoys of peace, but Alexander every time replied with just a smile. By the end of September, both armies had reached near the city of Arbela of Iraq on the banks of the Tigris River. The number of Greek soldiers was 47,000, while the number of Iranian soldiers was between 53,000 and 100,000. Both Darius the Iranian and Alexander the Greek knew that this was the decisive moment. The loser would have neither kingdom nor life. Therefore, both put their full strength and entire war experience into this battle. The Iranian emperor had learned much from the Battle of Issus. He understood that in the noise of the battlefield and in arranging the army, some mistakes had happened. He had decided that this time he would not make any mistake. Rather, this time he would defeat the enemy in his own chosen battlefield, with his own chosen weapons. On the 1st of October, 331 BC, near Arbela, the Greek army and the Iranian army stood face to face. The battlefield had been leveled and prepared. It was an open plain. On its right and left, far away, there were small hills. The Iranians had cleared the field, removed the villages, and leveled them to the ground. Now their cavalry chariots could run without any obstacle. Second arrangement they made was, in front of their infantry lines, in the center and on both sides, they stationed 15 Indian elephants. These elephants became a powerful and special weapon of the Iranian emperor. But his most powerful and special weapon was the war chariot. The Iranian chariot was usually pulled by 2 or 4 horses. On these chariots stood archers and spear-bearing soldiers. Attached to the wheels of the chariots, on both sides, were sharp, long blades. These made the chariot a terrifying weapon. On the battlefield, these chariots would rush into the enemy lines. The long blades on both sides would cut through the bodies of enemies, opening gaps in their ranks. Through these gaps, Iranian soldiers could enter and slaughter the enemy. The Iranians had 200 such chariots. Behind the emperor, at some distance, thousands of Iranian reserves were stationed. So in this way, in numbers, weapons, and battlefield, in all 3 matters, the Iranians had an advantage over the Greek army. It was their field, their weapons, their arrangements. And as you already know, Alexander's army was smaller. Alexander the Greek also saw all this. If the war was fought in the traditional way, it would be very costly. So like a true commander, he changed his every move and decided to fight in a non-traditional way. The central point of the Battle of Arbela was somehow to reach Emperor Darius, because if he was captured or killed, then the entire Iranian army would be finished. On the left side of the Greek army, the cavalry was arranged, but instead of lining them straight, they were placed in the shape of a curve. In the center were the infantry troops. On the right side also, cavalry troops were arranged in the same curved shape. On this right side force, Alexander himself took command. This arrangement looked like a long iron chain bent inwards. Behind the center infantry, a reserve of 7,000 soldiers was placed. When the arrangement was complete, then Alexander, according to his plan, made the first move. With some infantry soldiers, he came in front of the Iranian cavalry units. Then quickly, he started moving towards his right side, as if going far away from his own army. Darius thought perhaps Alexander wanted to make a long circle and attack from the back. So he also moved his troops parallel to Alexander's troops. This was exactly Alexander's plan. In this way, a portion of the Iranian army got cut away from the main force, and a gap started forming in the middle, through which at any time Alexander's army could attack the emperor. When Alexander and the Iranian troops following him had gone far away into the battlefield, then Emperor Darius also made his move. He sent forward his dangerous weapon, the chariots. They ran in different groups, rushing towards the Greek infantry units. It looked as if they would pierce into the Greek ranks and destroy them completely. But as these chariots came closer, the Greeks made a surprising move, clearly pre-planned. As the chariots advanced, the Greeks gave them way, moving back. When the chariots entered deep inside these spaces, the Greek archers showered arrows on them. From both sides, soldiers thrust their long spears into the horses and warriors of the chariots. Some soldiers jammed spears into the wheels, overturning the chariots. Within moments, most of the chariots were overturned, their horses and soldiers killed. After the chariots, the second dangerous Iranian weapon was elephants. But in history, there is no account of elephants making any major attack on the Greek army. Yes, some paintings show elephants. Perhaps they were present initially, but later removed to the Iranian camps. That is also possible. Anyway, the threats of chariots and elephants were now finished for the Greeks. So now the battle intensified. The Iranian cavalry attacked the Greek left-wing cavalry. In the center, the right portion of the Iranian army advanced, attacking the Greek center with their cavalry. At this time, the other part of the Greek center was still unengaged. They attacked the remaining Iranian center troops. Alexander himself, with some cavalry, fought for a while against the Afghani horsemen. Then, leaving some units engaged, he took part of his cavalry and suddenly turned towards the central Iranian force. Here his infantry was already fighting. From one side, Alexander's cavalry, from the other his infantry, both attacked the Iranian center. The Iranians started getting encircled. Soon Alexander's cavalry reached dangerously close to Emperor Darius. Meanwhile, on the right side, the Afghani commander Bessus misunderstood, thinking Alexander might turn back and attack him from behind. So he ordered his cavalry to retreat. Thus the Afghan cavalry fled from the battlefield. Though they retreated with discipline, still they could not help their emperor. So on this side also, the Greeks gained advantage. In the center too, the Iranians were being badly encircled. Now was the time for Darius to call his reserve troops and turn the battle. But perhaps those reserves were too far away. Darius had no time left to summon them. The enemy was already upon him. At one moment he even drew his sword, intending to fight and die. But realizing the hopeless situation, or persuaded by a loyal follower, he suddenly turned his chariot away and once again tried to flee the battlefield. According to Greek accounts, the dead bodies around him were piled so high that his chariot horses could not move. Frightened, he got down from the chariot and mounted a horse to escape. Seeing the emperor flee, the reserve Iranian soldiers also ran away. Then the same happened as at Issus. As news of the emperor's escape spread, the Iranian army collapsed. On one side, some Indian units bypassed the Greek army and attacked the Greek camp. They began looting. The commander of the Greek cavalry, seeing the situation worsen, sent a rider to Alexander to request help. Alexander was just about to capture Darius, but on receiving the message, he turned his horse and with all his cavalry rushed to help his struggling Greek troops. Before he arrived, the attacking Iranians had already fled. In the city of Arbela in Iraq, many Iranian units and Commander Bessus, with his Afghan cavalry, moved away with the emperor. From there, this whole force went towards Afghanistan to regroup and raise a new army, so they could return and fight Alexander again.